I'm April, and if you hear talking and yelling in the background of today's video, my dad is very loud, and he's watching football, and yeah, anyway, um, as you can see from the title, today we are talking about a topic that might get me in a little bit of trouble, but do I give a fuck? No, never do. I have made this video before on, like, old channels that I used to have, and one of the times that I made it, of course, someone got mad. It had like a couple of dislikes, and somebody commented, and they were like, "Stupid fucking Americans think they're better than everyone else." I never said that the American entertainment business is good. It's not true. That's not, like, our entertainment industry is very overrun with pedophiles and sexual abuse and misogyny, and it's just not good either. I even said that in the video, I'm pretty sure. So this isn't just a ignorant white person, American, who didn't do any research, because I have like 3 or 4 pages of notes here that I just sat down and did the research for. And it's not like this was stuff that I hadn't heard before, because like I said, I've made this video more than once before. So it's not like that. I'm just saying that this is an issue, but I never said that what's going on in our entertainment business is not an issue. It very obviously is. If you are triggered by, like, eating disorders, suicide, stuff like that, I wouldn't watch this video because that is going to come up. That is, like, the main themes going on here. I will also put links to any videos and articles that I took stuff from down below, so you can do your own research if you want. This isn't like a new topic. I've seen other people talk about it. I've seen, like, there's actual idols, like K-pop idols, who have come out and talk about it too. And one thing that I'm not even touching on here is the fans themselves. I'm only talking about the industry, but some fans, a lot of fans, it's like what they're known for, are also a problem. And I'm just now realizing as I'm recording this that I didn't even bring that up. And that's a whole problem in and of itself. But today we are just going to be focusing on the industry itself and the people who are powerful and in charge of it. I might bring up the fans a little bit, but I don't have any notes for that because I'm just now remembering that I didn't do that. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. If you get mad about this video, I don't give a fuck, cry about it. Now, if you're on the internet, if you've been on the internet for even a couple of years, if you've been on the internet for a week, I'm sure you've seen K-pop stans, probably heard bits of songs, maybe you know names of groups, like BTS is like the most popular one I can think of. So it's not like it's not a thing here in the US. It has spread to the US. It's very popular here. I have met people who are huge K-pop fans, and that's like their main fandom. And in fact, I even once, when I was younger, tried to get into it, but then it kind of hit me, like, why am I listening to K-pop music? I don't even speak Korean, nor do I plan to learn. Like, if it was Spanish music or Japanese music, it would make sense because those are languages that I'm either learning right now, I'm learning Spanish, and I'm going to learn Japanese. But I don't currently have any plans to learn Korean, and I don't understand the purpose of listening to music if you have to read subtitles. So anyway, I watch foreign movies and shows and stuff, but I'm not gonna listen to the music if I don't even know what they're singing about, and I'm not gonna look up the lyrics afterwards after every time and memorize what lyrics they're saying and then listen to it in a different language. And then you can't sing along to it if you're somebody who likes to sing along because you don't speak that language. Anyway, but it has been topping the charts. It has made its way into Western media. I think BTS had like their own meal at McDonald's or something, if I remember correctly. It's very much becoming mainstream here. And I will say that from what I have heard, the music is good. The videos are always really stunning. Their outfits always on point. The dancing is amazing. But the reason why they're so good at it is because they have had years of extensive training. How much of it is natural talent at that point, you know? Which I'm not saying, oh, if you take voice lessons and you're not a real singer, because that's like a common thing that a lot of people do. People take lessons. That's how you learn things. That's totally fine. But I'm just saying that, like, it makes sense why it's so good. So I'm not even saying, oh, K-pop is trash, I don't like Korean music. Like, it is really good, but it's just not for me, you know? And their fans make it even worse because they have some crazy-ass fucking fans who can't accept that people have different tastes. And this isn't even me mocking people for liking K-pop, because like I just said, K-pop is good. It sounds good. It's pleasing to the ears. It's the aesthetically, the music videos and stuff, they're always like high budget. They're really good. It's the industry itself. It's not even the idols. It's the people who control the idols, which they shouldn't even be controlled. They should be their own people. But so their fans and the dark history of it, that's what kind of taints it for me. So getting into the first point, as I mentioned, they go through rigorous training. They can train as early from like 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. the next day. So like, imagine getting up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and nonstop working until midnight. Like, that's not healthy. That can cause physical and mental health issues. And this isn't speculation. This is actual idols or ex-idols have come out and talked about their training regimens and the things that they had to go through and everything that happened behind the scenes. And so it's not just speculation, it's not just assumptions. There's people who have actually been through it who have spoken out about it over the years, and we'll get to that later. Now, I will say that the work ethic in Asia is a lot different than it is in the US. I'm not saying people here are not hardworking. There's definitely hardworking people. I know people who have 2 or 3 jobs that sometimes they'll do 2 jobs in one day. They're working all day. They have maybe a couple hours to themselves to relax, eat, hang out with their family, especially here in California because shit's so fucking expensive. We're struggling just to survive. So I'm not saying that it's not like that here, but it is well known for anybody who knows anything about even like if you know a lot about Japan, if you know a lot about Korea, China. I know a decent amount about Japan because I've always been interested in their culture. I think it's very beautiful. I love learning about their traditions. I have studied it a little bit because I started learning Japanese, but like I said in the past, I put a pause on that to learn Spanish because I had to take Spanish in school anyway, and I didn't want to be learning 2 languages at once. So I'm still currently learning Spanish. And then I know a little bit about like Korean culture, South Korean culture, because I watch K-dramas, and I also have heard people who have been there or lived there talk about it on YouTube, about how they are very hardworking there. It's very much work oriented. They their work ethic is a lot stronger. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, no matter how strong you are, no matter what the culture is and what country you live in, that doesn't change the fact that overworking yourself, not having rest and just working can have physical and mental effects. And it's not good effects. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, that's just how the body functions. You cannot stop it from happening. If you're overworking yourself, there's most likely going to be consequences. In some cases, overworking can even cause death, whether it's because over time that stress builds up and it takes a toll on your body. According to an article on Time.com, a woman in Japan actually died of congestive heart failure in July of 2017 after putting in 159 hours of overtime. According to Dr. Alan Young, the medical director at Stanford Cardiovascular Health, he says that high levels of stress and overworking can actually cause high blood pressure and cholesterol, which does affect your heart. He says that this does definitely take a toll on your body. Obviously, high cholesterol and blood pressure is not good, and there are other things that cause it, but, we're talking about overworking here and stress. He says it is rare that you die, but it is possible. Along with heart failure and heart attacks, it can also put you at a greater increased risk of strokes. And, obviously, if a stroke is bad enough or if a heart attack is bad enough, it can cause death. Even if it doesn't, it's still going to take a toll on your physical health. There's plenty of people who have had strokes or heart attacks who have recovered from it. However, it does, kind of have a big impact. I know my grandma has had multiple heart attacks. Only 30% of her heart is functioning right now. I have a friend who had a stroke and now she has to take medication for the rest of her life. She's totally fine. She's super smart. She's super capable and everything. but she does have a long-lasting effect from that stroke that she had when she was younger. Now, as I said, it doesn't just have physical effects, it also can affect you mentally, and by that I mean that high stress levels and overworking, which causes high stress levels, have actually been linked to greater risk of depression and anxiety. Once more, on top of that, it can also affect your sleep. Sleep deprivation is another thing that can actually take a toll on your health, that over time it eats away at your brain, it eats away at your heart, it's not good. And that can cause death. On to the next point, where we actually have a first-person testimonial of from someone who has been through it. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. That's actually a disclaimer I want to throw in. Before I say any names in here, I want to make it very clear that I do not know a lot about the Korean language or names, so am I going to be pronouncing all of these Korean names 100% correctly? Absolutely not. I'm going to try my best. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, that name's too hard for me, I'm gonna just not care and I'm gonna butcher it. That's not me. I'm going to do my best to say it. I even looked up videos for some of these to see if maybe I could find a video on how to pronounce it. But just know that I don't speak Korean. I don't know really any of the, like, the phonetics of it and everything. So, I do apologize if these are not pronounced 100% correctly. I am trying my best. I found this article on BBC.com, and they referred to this woman as Elaine Chong, but her name that she goes by on YouTube and throughout an article that was linked in that BBC article, she goes by the name, I think it's pronounced Eudias or Eudias. It's spelled Euodias. I tried to look up a video on how to say it. I tried to find, it turns out she's actually a YouTuber. I went on to her channel to see if I can maybe find, like, her saying her name. I don't know. But since she goes by that online, I don't know if I should call her Elaine Chong or Eudias, so I'm gonna say Eudias because that is the name that she goes by on her, that's the name of her YouTube channel. It's what she goes by anywhere else that I've seen her. And it turns out I actually have seen this girl. I've watched one of her videos before. That's just like a fun fact. Eudias had a 2-year contract to train to become a K-pop idol. She tried out. That she said the auditions were very brutal. I don't really go into that because that's pretty standard even for in the US. Like, it's very hard to get into the entertainment business. But once she had a callback, she signed the shortest contract that they offered her, which was 2 years, and she, after the 2 years was up, she did not renew her contract. I will link her YouTube channel down below. She has a video where she talked about her experience herself, if you want to check that out. I took most of this information from an interview that she did in an article on an article for BBC. According to the BBC article, she was actually told that if she signed this contract, she would have to move to South Korea and live in the company and be trained there. She is, from what I've seen, I'm not 100% sure on this, I didn't look super into the background of where she lived, but I think it did mention it. She was born in Korea, but then she moved to the UK. She grew up there, but she is Korean. She's half Korean, according to her. That's what she said in an article. So she would have to move back to South Korea and live in the company in order to do the training. I'm sorry if the angle at which the camera is pointed at me changes throughout the video. I constantly have a problem with running out of space on my phone, so sorry. So if it keeps moving, just know it's because I had to delete stuff off my phone and then put my camera back up, so. She was also told that after moving to Korea and starting her training, if she were to quit and leave training before the end of her contract, she would have to pay the full expenses for her training, and that would be in the thousands. Yudia says that other than regular school, if they wanted to leave the company to do anything, they had to ask for permission, and usually when asking for permission, they were denied. So they were not allowed to go out and really have social lives. They were just training all day except for when they were in regular school, and then they would, work these crazy hours and then get some sleep and do it all again the next day. Dating was actually banned. They were not allowed to date people. It was all just work, 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 and if you were not straight, you were forced to pretend like you were straight because it was not good for your image, and if you were openly gay or not straight in any way, you were ostracized from the rest of the trainees and you were just not treated well. She also says that there is no such thing as holidays or days off, it's just work, 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 and they were not called by their actual names. They were given a number, a stage name, and a persona. So by that, I mean that they might have, I think it said that they called each other by their names, but the trainers, the people who were training them, called them by numbers that they were assigned, and they were all given personas of ways that they are supposed to act, which I will talk about again later because it comes up again later. They were forced to do weekly weigh-ins to analyze their bodies, and they announced your weight to the room. No matter what your height was, you were not allowed to weigh over 47 kilograms, which for people in the US who we don't use kilograms, we use pounds, that is 104 pounds. If you were over the 104 pounds, if you were overweight, you were just given water. And sometimes meals would be taken away from you. If not taken away, your food was rationed and you had to eat smaller portions so you would lose the weight. Starving yourself was normalized, and many trainees actually became anorexic or bulimic, and they were obsessed with trying to keep their weight down. Yudia says that she actually passed out twice during dance practice, and she suspects it was from either malnutrition or dehydration. Another thing that is very prevalent in K-pop idols is plastic surgery. From what I've heard, that's actually very prevalent in South Korean culture in general. I think it even mentioned it in this article, but I've heard it from people who have lived there, or people who are from there, people who know more about the culture. I've also heard about it in like K-dramas. Plastic surgery is very normalized. They were not forced to get plastic surgery, but it was very encouraged. In fact, they actually wanted to change the bridge of her nose and shave down her jawline because by Korean standards, her face is considered too big. Now, back to what I said earlier about the persona, she said that every person in a group is actually given a role within the group, such as lead vocalist, rapper, dancer, the visual, etc. And UDS was actually selected to either be the lead vocalist or to be the visual. Her and another girl were actually in competition to be the visual. And the visual is basically the person who, from my understanding, it's just they were supposed to, like, look pretty. It doesn't mean that they don't perform, obviously they do, but they have to look a certain way. So the persona that she was given is that she's supposed to be cute, shy, sweet, innocent, but that's actually not her personality at all, because she says in her own words that she's actually very opinionated and loud. She said that she actually did not know if she would be able to keep up that persona in public. Now, we're on the last page of notes here, and this is where it gets, like, really dark. Like, we've already touched on the sleep deprivation, the exhaustion, the eating disorders, but here we actually talk about suicide. Now, from what I've heard, this isn't specifically about K-pop, but it is about Asian culture. Suicide rates in Asian countries are very, very high, especially in places like Japan and Korea, from what I've heard. And it seems like it's very much tied with the work ethic once again. A K-pop idol known as Kim Jong-hyun, not sure if I pronounced that correctly, I'm very sorry, actually killed himself in 2017. And in his suicide note, he said that he felt broken inside. In his suicide note, he wrote, "The depression that gnawed on me slowly has finally engulfed me entirely." And then he added that he just couldn't defeat it anymore. Now, when this news broke, he's not the only one. I talk about a few more here. And then there's others that I know it's not these people who I have the notes about, but I have heard about even more idols who have killed themselves. And in their notes that they left, they basically said that they were very not happy because of the industry. They were under too much stress. They were overworked. They wanted out. They just felt trapped. It's a very common thing. It's becoming more common, which is really sad. People are just killing themselves to get out of the industry. But back to the whole, like, public appearances thing, fans were shocked because he seemed very happy and very, pleased with his life. Like, he actually liked, being alive, and people were shocked because of the things that he said. but that very much ties into what I was saying earlier about having to keep up with public appearances. You have a persona, you have expectations. Like I said, the fans are crazy. Like, you have, on top of all the stress that they're under through their company and all the training that they have to go through and what they experience on stage, because there's compilations, I will link at least one in the description. There's compilations of K-pop stars passing out either during training or on stage during performances. It's not good, and it's very common. It's happened, like, there's tons of videos about this stuff. But on top of all that stress, they also have the crazy fans, people who are so obsessed with them that they show up at their houses. Not that that doesn't happen in America. I feel like I have to keep saying that because there's always going to be that one dumbass who's like, you think you're so much better? No, I literally said this in the beginning. People showing up to their houses, or people being, like, actually, like, stalking them. You know, people carving the name of their idol, like their favorite idol, and I think it's called their bias, into their arm and shit. Like, it's not good. It's just, it's not. So they're under pressure from the company that they work for. They're under pressure from their fans. They are encouraged to starve themselves and change their bodies entirely, overwork themselves, get plastic surgery, and even fake relationships. Now, that's not something that's completely unheard of. It happens a lot, like a lot in Western culture. For example, Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello, people really suspect that their relationship was fake. Can't say I disagree. It seemed a little fake to me, but anyway. We see a lot of that, and so that's not too shocking, but the fact that they are literally not allowed to choose their own, you know, partners, because it literally, that's what I said earlier, it was, dating is banned. So at least in, like, our Western culture, yeah, there's fake relationships, but there's also, like, actual couples. Like, people actually are allowed to choose who they're going to date. It's just, if they're single and there's another popular celebrity who's single, then, you know, it's a publicity stunt. That happens a lot. But for them, they're literally not allowed to just have a relationship. They're controlled every second of every day, and of course it's going to take a toll on your mental health. And lastly, there is another K-pop idol who, like I said, there's even more than this. This is just the only two that I jotted down. Her name was Sulli, I think is how you pronounce it, S-U-L-L-I. She spoke out about what things were like as a K-pop idol, and she actually is an ex-K-pop idol. She left. She no longer was part of the business. She had had enough, and she was completely attacked for it by fans and just the general public. People were looking down on her, and you know, just completely, they ate her up until she killed herself in 2019. So definitely it's some dark shit, and like I said, I'm not even touching on the fans. That's a whole other topic. I didn't want this video to be too long, but now I'm seeing that I actually probably could have talked about the fans in this video. In the other original videos that I did, I talked about the fans. But yeah, so anyways, to recap, eating disorders, abuse, overworking, unhealthy lifestyles in general, fake relationships, being completely controlled, the fans, it's just, it's not good. The music's really catchy and upbeat, and that's why people ignore it, but I think that it is important to, you know, acknowledge that shit's not as good behind the curtain. And again, I'm not saying that it is good here in America. There are plenty of companies, plenty of agencies that have been outed to treat their clients just as inhumane as some of these K-pop idols are being treated. Again, I'm sure it's not all companies. I'm sure that there are companies that actually treat their idols correctly and they're not treated like shit like this, but it seems to be more common than not. So, thank you for watching. Maybe another day I'll talk about the fans, although I don't see making a whole video just about the fans. I think if you're on the internet, you've probably run into some fans, some K-pop fans, and I'm sure you know the gist of what I'm gonna say. So thank you for watching. Please press this like button, big bus, and I'll see you next video. Sayonara.